Hi everyone, Jason here from Spiritualbabies.net. You joined us for a brand new series. We are looking at something that's very important to me because of the journey I've been on. And we have an awesome co-host, Rod Bryant. You might recognize him from some videos. We're going to introduce you to him in just a moment. This is going to be at least a 5-part show where we are looking at roles which occur in the Torah, which are not Israelite roles in the way that a Jew fulfills an Israelite role. So we are going to look at some biblical definitions to do with the ger, the gerim, the stranger, the alien, and the sojourner. It's going to be interesting. We want you to play along at home as well, so don't just sit there and accept what we're telling you is true. Make sure you open up your text and as many books as you can. Don't even rely on your own Bible. Check different ones. But first of all, we're going to introduce you to the co-host for this series, which is Rod Bryant. So thanks for joining us on this journey, Rod. Can you because I'll have viewers to my channel who perhaps aren't au fait, isn't a word I get to use very often, but I'm going to use it today. Au fait with your video and what you do. So can you give yourself like an introduction and let us know what you do?
Absolutely. Real quick, short and sweet. I was a Christian pastor for 31 years, classically trained in Christian systematic theology at a conservative seminary with a Master of Divinity. I realized at some point that I really didn't know anything because I finally decided to study original sources from the Torah and shook my world up. And I quickly made the decision, well, quickly, seems quickly now in hindsight, but actually it was a long, arduous journey of about 7 years, making the decision to leave Christianity and to pursue Torah Judaism with the purpose of converting to Judaism. That has been slowed down somewhat just because of the logistics of it. But very clearly, I went through this whole mental exercise, understanding what is the responsibility of the righteous Gentile in the world, and what is a ger, what is a Noahide, and we can go into all those discussions later on. But my wife and I are here in a place called Humble, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston, and it is now part of a very strong community of Noahide slash ger slash secular Jew that is becoming Bali Tshuva. There are probably 4 or 5 families here that are Jewish that have come back to Torah and decided to shake off their sort of secular mindset. So it's a very unique, eclectic group of people, and I'm really honored that you would ask me to come and have this discussion. So thank you, appreciate it.
All right, so I'm going to jump in real quick because I have a certain vocabulary that I use, and you have a vocabulary that you use, and you're going to be introducing us to some words and phrases which we might not have heard before from the type of videos that I do. So can you explain for the audience what Bal Shuva is?
Very good, thank you. And anytime you hear that, please inform me of that. A person who's considered Bali Tshuva is a person who is uh, not a religious Jew, not been practicing their Judaism, and comes to their senses and returns back to Torah Judaism. And it's tshuva, it's repenting and coming back to their Judaism.
Cool. So many times when we look at the prophets and the minor prophets, and we'll see "Return to me," and I'll return to you, and it's that part of "Return to me"
It
that's
is.
fulfilled in that title.
Precisely. In some way, for those people who, like us, who are in the nations, who have sort of stripped ourselves of all of our worldly thought processes, our secular, I mean, our religious thought processes, we are also doing tshuva.
I'm hoping that this video will go up on my channel. It's also going to go up onto your channel. Can you tell
Certainly.
us a little bit about the name of your website, where you host your videos, and what your videos are about? So when people finish here, they can go and find out more information.
Excellent. We are found on the internet at www.netiv.net, native.net. Native.net was actually developed to help sort of service the local community here at first, and that is take all of our lectures that we do each week and put them up on the internet. Since starting that process, it's grown to about 40,000 visitors a month and many hours of videos downloaded. We have a YouTube channel as well that you can find the link on that website. But the goal of it is to actually give sort of, the basic foundation of Torah study and Torah ethics, Musar is what it's called, Torah ethics, and wisdom of Torah for the average guy to be able to take it in small bites and run with it. And it surely has helped a lot of people grow from all over the world.
Okay, so I'm going to give a really brief introduction to me for your guys too.
Yes, please.
Okay, my name's Jason. I live in Ireland. I'm actually English. To do this real quick, I haven't known any other faith except for Christianity. I Baptist through and through, which is a little bit different to the American Baptists. We don't have fans in the aisles and jumping up and down and dancing and slaying of the spirits and stuff. Basically, a Baptist in the UK is someone who attends a Baptist church, which is much like many other churches, except they do kind of full immersion baptism, which happened to me. I made that choice. I was a youth leader for quite a long time, which was exhausting. It's a lot of basketball, more than I ever want to play again. And I was really into it. And kind of interestingly for me, I was very into the keyword searches, they were called in the day. Very interested in the Hebrew words, which I wasn't reading in the text, but my keyword search in my Spirit-Filled Life Bible was telling me was there. So that was one of the things that made me swing back from Christianity towards Messianic walk, which happened maybe 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago. But I wasn't in the Messianic movement very long, and as soon as I started reading about the Shabbat, I started to realize that what I was doing and what I should have been... There it goes again. If you hear the gurgling, that's my sink. It's not me. I'll just give that a second. I should have said it's me. I'm very poorly. So I started to read about things in the text when I started at Genesis 1:1, which I hadn't come across before. And I was kind of in and out of the Messianic movement in like 8 months.
Wow, that's quick.
Yeah, it didn't take long at all. And I don't know whether it's because I was very much into computer code, and when you deal with computer code, it either is or isn't. There's no grey space. And I kind of applied that to the text and decided it isn't pretty quickly regarding the Christian texts. And so since then, I've been working with different people, doing programs with different people. You can find me on spiritualbabies.net and on YouTube/spiritualbabies, and you'll find lots of videos about my journey, what I found out, and that's basically what I do. So I share what I found out. I think what the purpose of these videos is going to be is that we're going to be looking at the text of the Torah in 5 shows, 1 show for each book, and the areas in that text where they actually mention the different people who constitute Israel and the people that lived around Israel. And we'll be getting a biblical definition of those groups, because there's no standout word, which makes it super easy, except for Yehudi and Judah and Israel. The rest of the words are kind of very mix and match, but hopefully by the end, we'll have all formed a much better opinion about who Israel is, who Israel isn't, and who we are as, or personally for me, who I am as a non-Jew, wannabe Jew. I've been called a wannabe Jew so many times, I've decided to take that on as a thing. That's okay. As a non-Jew,
I don't know that it's a really negative connotation, honestly.
Right.
Honestly, really.
Because, that's something I want eventually. But at the moment, who am I? Where am I? What does that entitle me to do without stepping on any toes? And do I feel good about that? And so we're going to hold hands and skip down this yellow brick road together. What's great for us is we can have this nice long intro, because there's really only 2 verses which specifically mention the word Ger. And if you've got Strong's Concordances, it wouldn't hurt for you to look up some of this stuff yourself. So the first word we're going to mention here, I think, is going to be Ger. And it's 1616 in the Strong's. And I will have a little graphic pop up now to show you how that's spelt, so people can play along at home. The first instance I found, and I'm not sure if you have the same. Oh yeah, so this isn't a polished thing, boys and girls. If you're at home watching this and you're expecting some fantastic polished thing, it's not. We are rough and ready. We're pulling up pages and looking at them and talking
But
about
I
them.
need to I need to say something really
Mm.
important. I got off the line with Rabbi David Katz, and he said, look, whenever you present this, make sure that you present this, that this is a fluid issue. Okay, the idea of the ger, the ger toshav, the noahide, this is all a very fluid environment in which we're still learning a lot of things from the sages. So that is the reason why we're going to do this show without all of the high polish and the lecture style. This is just going to be a conversation. We want to invite you into the conversation, basically.
Well said. So if you're at home, open up your books, and at the end of the show, if you're watching this on YouTube, throw some comments underneath. If you've got questions, approach us on Facebook. Don't be afraid to ask, and if we can answer them, we will.
Yes.
So I think we should maybe start off then with Genesis 15:13. You know what? We might as well do the step-by-step thing. So I'm
Right.
using Bible Hub at the moment. BibleHub.com, although it's a Christian engine, does break down each line of the Torah into the constituent Hebrew words,
Hmm.
which, if you like matching shapes, if you don't understand the letters, that's okay, because you can still match the shapes
Right.
between two words and try and see where the connections are.
Right. So they have transliterated. It's easy to follow that and sort of see what the word looks like.
And so I'm going to read that real quick. And he said to Abraham for certain, know that a stranger shall be your offspring in the land. So I'm reading it as it's going to be, as it's read in Hebrew, but in English. So I'll do that first and then I'll do it the long way. And he said to Abraham for certain, know that the stranger, that's your ger word, shall be your offspring in a land not unto them, and they shall serve and they shall afflict them 400 years. And basically in the English it says, God says to Abraham, that his offspring will be a stranger in a land that's not the one they were born to, and they'll be servants and afflicted for 400 years. And the stranger in that case is Ger. And would it be fair to say that before Sinai and before the Exodus from Egypt, everyone was a Ger?
Everyone was a ger. Absolutely. It's a good statement. And as well, we are going to understand in some of these cases of the 92 references that we're going to find in the Tanakh that refers to ger. It's very important to realize that this is actually, each instance listed is a progression of different types of ger, different status. Okay, so as we go through, we just can't lump them all and say this is the single definition for ger. Okay, so each one of these texts that we're going to read over the next 5 weeks are going to be giving us a little snippet of a picture into what kind of ger is it. And so let me give an analogy real quick so that people can understand. I'm a U.S. citizen. I live in the state of Texas. That makes me a United States citizen. I could say ger, right? I'm not in the sense of the definition term. I'm using this as applying this concept. I'm a U.S. citizen, but I'm a very distinct type of U.S. citizen that lives in the state of Texas. And now, if you want to find something else about me, I'm a U.S. citizen that lives in the state of Texas who was in the military, right? And so that's the kind of definitions that we're going to get of a ger. So we're just not throwing out a general term and say, oh, that's what you are. You've got to find out who you actually are. Okay, I'm finished now.
This is a valid point, and this is a valid point for a few reasons. If I open up one particular Bible and I look at the word ger in any particular passage, I won't find, as it's used here, stranger. I won't find that meaning stranger. I might find that meaning foreigner. I might find it meaning alien, or outsider. And that's just in the same Bible. I can
Right.
find that word in different places. It's going to mean different things depending on the context. And in a much broader way, and this is why it's quite important that we play along looking at what the Hebrew words are in each instance. If I look at in one Bible this passage in Genesis 15:13 and see stranger in another one in a different Bible for the same one, it'll have a different word. So we have to remember when we read the English that we're reading the edited versions, right? That the English is not. It's not that it's not trustworthy. The message is probably going to be kind of right, but we can't assume that because it's translated one way in one verse, it's going to mean that everywhere we look at it. But as we go through these, we're going to try and break it all down. If you're playing at home, you'll have a better understanding the next time you read it.
Right.
About what it means. So in this instance, everyone is a Ger, and even though it's Abraham's offspring and Abraham is the first Jew, still his offspring are Ger in this foreign land.
So he's a stranger, and let me give it a little analogy. It basically means that he was planted in one place in which he was not a stranger, and that is in his own land. And he finds himself in another place in which he's sort of the foreigner or the stranger. But at the same time, we're going to have to think about this concept a little bit more, because many of us, like you and I, we were in our world, our previous existence and paradigm, and we felt like strangers to that. And that's the reason why we left to go to another land, to only find ourselves strangers again, right?
So here we are, thousands of us dotted all around the world, still not in what we might call our home land, still strangers, but somehow connected as well. So it's what the definitions just keep moving around.
Right.
So that was the first one, and that was quite easy. The second one here we have is in Genesis 23:4. Do you want to talk us through this one?
Yes, absolutely. Genesis 23, verse 4, it says, a stranger and a sojourner, I am among you. Give to me a possession of a burial place with you, that I may bury my dead out of sight. Now, this is another type of stranger. The first Ger was a person who was sort of plucked up out of one location and put into another, and he's sort of the foreigner. He's sort of the guy that no one knows. He's the stranger. And in this situation, now he's saying, the type of Ger that I am here is that I have actually been with you guys for a while. You know me. I've got a good reputation around here. But I want to be more than just a stranger and a sojourner, meaning I've sort of been in the community and I've bought in your markets. Now I'm wanting to put my roots down and actually have my family here. So that is a different kind of Ger. This kind of Ger here is actually what Rabbi Hirsch was talking about, is a Ger Toshav, is one who sort of anchors himself down. Not only does he find himself sort of psychologically with and emotionally with the communities that he is in, for example, a person who leaves Christianity, they're no longer abiding by their systematic Christian theology, they are really by heart and mind very much in with the Jewish people and with Israel. They feel like that they're actually a part of Israel. One of the mistakes they make is they'll say, I am Israel, or I'm an Ephraimite, or whatever. The thing is no, you're not. And who determines that is not Jason and I, but it's actually the sages of Judaism that determines that, and actually the Tanakh. So the Tanakh says, no, you're more like Abraham. That type of Ger is a person who's actually still on the outside and a stranger in both places, but is seeking lech lecha, going to go find themselves. That's one kind of Ger. This kind of Ger is one who's moved into community, is in sort of relationship, knows the Chabad rabbi, he's already starting to have his family, maybe doing Shabbos meals with a Jewish family. He's putting his roots in. That's the different kind of Ger at this place.
Well, I feel like we should cover so much stuff right now, because
Might as well.
Yeah, well, that's going to come up, right? There are going to be people who watch this who are going to say, well, that's fine, but I live in the middle of a forest 100 miles away from anybody, and they're certainly not going to be Jewish. I live in the middle of the Bible Belt. I don't have any Jewish friends. And so what constitutes a community in 2015? Now, I honestly, now it's only my opinion and not necessarily the opinion of our non-existent sponsors, but if I think in this day and age, what constitutes a Jewish community isn't the same as what constituted a Jewish community in 1600 or 1200 or 100 CE. And I do think that if you were pursuing a Torah lifestyle and you support Israel, you support the Jewish people, and you're conversating, That's a terrible word.
Conversing, maybe? Yes.
Conversing is much better. In fact, I'm going to just say conversing and cut out the bit I did wrong.
Yes,
Well,
conversing.
welcome to editing.
Yes.
If you're conversing with Jewish communities online, I think it's fair to say that you're engaging with Jewish communities in the language of the world we live in today, which is obviously going to be different then. Um, but we will get to that, I'm sure, over and over and over again. I don't want anyone to think that we're telling people that you can't be involved because
Well, no, if anything, we would be saying the opposite. We'd actually say the opposite. No, you should be involved. You should engage with the Jewish community. And hopefully, in one of these programs, you and I can talk about the attitude and disposition of the person who's considered the stranger that shows up and says, "Hey, I'm here." Your attitude should be of humility and wisdom. And I tell you, from Rabbi Abraham Sutton, who wrote a fantastic book called Spiritual Technology. Have you read the book yet?
nope.
He would clearly support the idea that you just said, that in the days before Mashiach, that what we are finding is a virtual world of the Garim, of the non-Jew and the Jew coming together and starting partnerships of informing and illuminating the world. It's a beautiful thing. So he would agree with you.
And I have to say that as someone who's been involved in what I do, I wouldn't be able to do it with technology or without the internet. And I think it's fair to say that 99.9% of the people who I've come in contact with could only do this via the internet. I think that it's a hugely important tool, and not just in contacting people, but in learning. So we've got these amazing teachers who go out there, and it's kind of funny, isn't it, that Rabbi Tovia Singer goes out there. Why? Because he's doing outreach Judaism to Jews who have been maybe fooled into looking at Christian texts. Rabbi Michael Skoback of
Right.
Jews for Judaism, who goes out there to speak to Jewish people about the Christian texts. And here I am, and many others who aren't the target audience,
Mm-hmm.
but are being touched by this because of the technology. It seems ridiculous for me to believe that technology and that amount of connection doesn't count when it comes to integrating yourself with those
Right.
people in the real time, in the real world.
So imagine this, Jason. There is probably going to be people that are within our community, virtually, and yours, whose only access to the internet is a cell phone in southern India, and they will watch this video and be encouraged and elevated because of this. That blows me away. I mean, what an incredible opportunity and responsibility at the same time to hold to the highest level of integrity to what the text says and what the Tanakh actually says. How long have you been doing this? How many years?
Um,
Actually doing this with Jono and yourself. How many years?
3.5, nearly 4 years.
Okay, so 4 years ago. Can you imagine 10 years ago? There was none of this. Now we have this proliferation of really good Torah that is coming out of your channel and many people like yourself, and Baruch Hashem, here we're going to encourage others now that are ready to make this step. If I just would like to just say something to that person who's hearing this and going, wow, I think that's what I am, but I'm still sort of in Christianity. I haven't been going to church because I just have so many problems, but I need a relationship and fellowship. Our encouragement to you is to go ahead and make the break. Find yourself of the virtual community. There are probably a dozen sites right now on Facebook that cater specifically to those who have left Christianity and want to learn Torah from its highest level of textual integrity. And of course, they have your show, Jason, Spiritual Babes, that they can go on and watch hours. I mean, hours and hours and hours of video. And so we want to encourage you. You might not be around the Jewish community. That's all right. You're sort of like Abraham right now. But pretty soon, you're going to find yourself sort of maybe even finding yourself embedded at some level with some Jews in your area, and go to a what do you call it, a Passover, a Pesach dinner, or something like that. And pretty soon you're going to want your children to be seeing that and to be educated in that. And that's going to be this next level of a gear that we just talked about, from Genesis 23:4. It's a beautiful thing. This is all about a journey, isn't it?
Yeah, totally about a journey, and I have to say that it doesn't end. I remember having this. It's kind of funny when you're in Christianity, you carry a lot of baggage, um, of how you've been told to read the text, how you've been told to live your life, what the rules are, and when you leave Christianity, you take off your "I love Jesus" T-shirt, but you're still carrying all those bags. And one of them for me was you become something and then you're it. And what's really been highlighted for me is that I've not even started yet. Maybe 3.5, 4 years in, but I'm absolutely brand new at this. And the more I read, the more I realize I really don't know what I'm doing and where I'm going. That said, don't like if you are considering leaving your church to study on your own and test things out. Do it, because this you only need a tiny amount to make that step. There's this fear that if you get rid of Jesus, then your parachute won't open and you're going to plummet to your death. But the secret is you're already on the ground.
Right. And God is actually your keeper. He's the one who's your sustainer.
So my advice is, just do it. And as Rod said, there's a huge community online in several different groups, or catering to how hardcore you are about study or about community or about the culture. If you make this choice, you don't have to suddenly jump in to a conversion. You're a human being. You've got the right to take your time and just become who you are before you make a choice about how you want to fulfill or how you want to express your faith.
I would like to just say this. There is a lot of fear associated with leaving. I understand that. I mean, I went through it with myself. But the most liberating thing that I discovered is when you make that step. There's a concept in Judaism that says Hashem, first of all, 13 Principles of Faith says that there is reward and punishment. Anybody who allies themselves to Judaism will have to believe in the 13 Principles of Faith, even the Noahide or the Ger. Now, with that being said, reward and punishment. It says that Hashem gives measure for measure, either rewarding or punishment for what you do. Okay? So if you will make the step forward and you say, look, I don't know anything, I don't know where to study, I don't know Hebrew, I don't have a Talmud, I don't have a Chumash, I don't have any of these things, I just have my Christian Bible, I don't even know where to begin. I would say make the first step of saying, God, you are my parachute. If I perceive that I'm still in the air, you're my parachute. I'm going to make the step. And I can promise you that Hashem will give for that measure, that intensity, integrity in which you approach the study. He will illuminate things for you. You and I are a testament to that.
It's kind of interesting when you're talking about all those things, that people worry that they don't have. I can pin my change direction down to one instance of me making one dedicated prayer that basically went along the lines of, I think I've been duped. I'm pretty confident that I shouldn't be doing anything except for looking towards you. Can you guide me in this decision? And it was really a basic prayer, and I wasn't looking at a Bible, holding a Bible. I didn't have any other special tools.
You didn't feel goose pimples running up and down your spine or anything like that?
I did a little bit, but it was October, I remember, and I was out on the balcony. So, environmental things aside, right. I wanted to make a declaration that I thought that change was needed, but I wanted to make sure that I was doing the right thing. So I thought, I'm of the opinion that if God wants me to change, He's capable of punching me into the right direction, and I'm
Absolutely.
perfectly okay with Him to do that. And so that's what I kind of that was my thing. If you want me to go this way, then make it so that's the only thing I can do. And I've heard testimony from many other people that have done the same thing. There's no special tools required except for your will to look and test. And He's the king of the universe. If you're asking a question which he doesn't agree with, it's going to let you know. It's not like
Absolutely.
this is a. You're not going to damn yourself by asking God questions or by searching out a greater truth than where you are at the moment. So don't be freaked out. Just go for it. It's hugely important that you always test what you're told, test what you think you know, and improve yourself and try and be a better person and move forward.
Right.
So why don't we? Because I think we're probably nearing the end, because we've only, like I said, we had those two verses. The second one there was Abraham and Sarah's died, and he's seeking a tomb from, I think it is the Hittites.
Correct.
Right.
And he's going to pay for it too. So
That's right.
does that not teach us something about what the next level of the Ger is going to be? The next level of stranger that leaves his land, leaves his pagan idolatry, comes into a land that's not his land, it's unfamiliar territory, finally gets settled in. Then the next level means that you begin to invest in your relationship with the land itself, or with the community of Israel or Judaism, meaning you invest by donating to charity or tzedakah, to causes that help poor Jewish families. You invest in the purchase of your study books. These are ways that you begin to anchor yourself into the land, into the promised area or life that God has intended for you.
And if you don't have the means to do that, if you're not financially well off, then invest in yourself and invest in these programs, which are free. But what we will be doing as we go through is trying to, just like the Bible resource we gave you, if there are ways of you studying online that we use, we'll introduce you to those as well. So Facebook, if you are going to go onto Facebook, and I really recommend it. Lots of people think that Facebook is of the devil, but it's like
I guess
anything
it could
else.
be, but just don't go there.
You can use Facebook for good or for evil. And there are some awesome communities on Facebook that we're a part of all the time. So if you are on Facebook, come and find one of us and we'll point you in direction to some really good groups. You
Right.
don't even have to tell your friends and family. So I'd said if you've got a cell phone, you can get connected and start exploring.
Jason, there
On
are also some of them that are dedicated solely to privacy, which means that it's not open to the public. No one has to know that you're even on it, and I think it was something to be worth taking a look at.
Yeah, with safe rooms, I can think of at least two groups
Right.
which run complete safe rooms. So you can ask questions without having to worry that your neighbor or even a family member is going to find out and give you a hard time. On YouTube, you can come and find me, you can come and find Rod, and there will be links right now on your screen to do that.
Well, another one would be very interesting is Rabbi Dovid or David Katz at soulmazel.blogspot.com or gergear.com. He and Rabbi Chaim Korfin has written a book called The World of the Ger. Highly suggest you try to get your hands on that book. You can order at gergear.com. An easy read, but it'll be very informative, help you to understand where's your place in the world. And just know that Hashem's happy with you where you're at. You're exactly where Hashem wants you to be. And take your time studying and loving Hashem and fellowshipping, finding other people to connect with. Your life's going to change. Get the burden off your back. Enjoy your life.
Amen. So you know what? I think we will wrap it up there. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back again very soon. There will be a link to the next program, hopefully, if it's made. If it's not, there
Yes.
won't be on this video right now. And we'll see you again very soon.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Rod. Why don't you give them all the sign off, and then we'll
Okay.
hang
Well,
up.
we want to encourage you highly. Thank you so much for your time, Jason. You're doing an amazing job. You're being very transparent about your own journey. What a beautiful thing. I've been inspired by you and your work that you've done for so long. And I just want to say, I just also want to say, if you are just a little intimidated to contact Jason or I, don't be, please. I mean, don't be. Just get a hold of us. and will help direct you in the right direction. And until the next program, we'll have to say shalom.